Today, I'm going to be exploring something that I have been obsessed with recently, blackening. This is a seasoning and cooking technique that I've only recently really dove into, and I can report that blackening is one of the most fun and satisfying cooking experiences. So I'm going to talk about the basics of blackening, what spices work and don't work, a few simple and healthy lunches that I've been all over for the past few months, as well as a use case for it that I have not seen explored and I think is very useful. So let's dive right in. Blackening is a technique where you take a blackening spice mixture and very thoroughly coat what you're cooking in it, then cook it over medium to high heat to create its namesake color. One of the benefits of blackening is that you're able to get a deep and flavorful crust quickly, as well as smelling and tasting the amazing flavors that occur when the spices caramelize. Take this chicken thigh, which I'm gonna blacken and then eat with a spicy cabbage slaw, roasted sweet potato, and farro. I sprinkled plenty of blackening rub onto the meat and then let it sit for 30 minutes to let the flavors absorb. And while that's working, I chopped up a sweet potato and seasoned it with a few drops of grapeseed oil, salt, and coriander. And I roasted them in a 425-degree oven for 15 minutes until they were just tender, and then combined them with chopped up cilantro, which is the leaf of the coriander seed. 90% of what's done in fine dining is irrelevant for us cooking at home, but this is just the type of simple trick I use almost every day. I took 50 grams of sliced red cabbage, a chopped up half of a red Fresno chili, and combined them with 25 grams of lemon juice and 4 grams of salt, and I let them sit for about 30 minutes before I added 20 grams of crema. I happen to love this grain. When you read the package instructions, it tells you to cook it like rice, but I take the easy road and just blanch it in a big pot of boiling water seasoned with salt. Just enough so that the water itself tastes seasoned like you might season a soup, not the taste like the sea thing you'll sometimes hear. And it's done in 25 minutes. The chicken I cooked on the griddle over medium-high heat until both sides look almost burnt and the internal temperature is 165 degrees. This dish checks all the boxes for me. It's fast, easy, I can do most of it ahead of time, it's high in protein, and if you finish it with cilantro and coriander, it looks good enough to serve someone other than me. And for the first time ever, here are some macros if you're interested in that sort of thing. To me, the biggest upside of blackening is just how easy it is. Sprinkle it onto a protein, throw it in a pan or on the griddle, and it will taste great, which is why I don't make my own rub. But if that's something you're interested in exploring, here are a few tips for you. It is largely sugar caramelization that is occurring as opposed to the famous Maillard reaction. While I think that as a home cook, understanding both of these is helpful, the only thing you need to know is that sugars will brown much faster than proteins like steak. Every blackening spice mixture contains large amounts of spices that contain natural sugars like paprika, onion powder, or garlic powder, as well as some additional spices of herbs for added aroma. Personally, I like equal parts of the paprika, onion, and garlic trio, so a good base would be 20 grams of onion powder, 20 grams of garlic powder, and 20 grams of paprika. I've found replacing paprika with Espelette makes the best tasting rub, but it can be expensive and paprika still works great. Beyond that, smaller amounts, around 3 grams of aromatic herbs like thyme, cayenne, or white pepper work well. For this next recipe, the rub I used was 15 grams of onion powder, 15 grams of garlic powder, 15 grams of smoked paprika, and 3 grams of allspice, which I dusted on these thawed, peeled, and deveined shrimps, and then seared over high heat with a small drizzle of grapeseed oil until they were just cooked, about a minute on each side. Then I took them out of the pan and added a clove of sliced garlic to cook for about 30 seconds, just until it's starting to turn golden brown. Then in went 100 grams of corn kernels, a seeded and chopped up jalapeno, and 6 grams of salt. After you've stirred this up, turn the heat down to medium-low and let it go for about 3 minutes until you hear the corn start to pop, and then turn the heat off. Add some chopped up scallion and lime zest. This I had over a bowl of white rice with a drizzle of crema, and it was delicious. For this final recipe, I want to share what I think is an unsung hero of this technique, which is cooking steak. I don't know about you, but most of the time when I'm doing my grocery shopping, I want it to be fast and easy and not drain my entire bank account, which usually stops long before I've made it to the butcher counter and purchased that 20-ounce New York strip steak, which I just watched Guga turn into a wood-charred masterpiece. So when I see that $7 a pound skirt steak special just sitting there waiting to be grabbed, I am all over it. These cheap steaks are amazing and full of flavor, but a thin steak like this is very difficult to get a good char and still keep juicy and pink in the middle. but not with the magic of blackening. So I sprinkled my rub on it and let it sit overnight. And then I got a saute pan smoking hot. I lightly oiled the steak and seared both sides for about a minute each side. It does not take long because the rub is going to darken quickly. Whenever I'm dealing with very high heat like this, I prefer to oil the ingredient instead of the pan because of the way oil acts as a temperature regulator. With this technique, you should end up with a perfectly cooked steak, but on the rare occasion that you cut into it and it's undercooked, I covered how to easily fix that in another video, which I'll link in the description. Once it rested, I sliced it up and I ate this in a corn tortilla with sliced avocado, some of the cabbage slaw I'd left over from filming the chicken thigh recipe, lime juice, and a little extra rub. It was delicious and took me about 10 minutes to make. But anyway, that is all for me on this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.